The Library of Alexandria burns. Flames devour scrolls by the thousands, the air thick with the acrid stench of parchment and ink. Centuries of human knowledge, wisdom, and discovery dissolve into smoke, carried away by a merciless wind. Scholars and citizens alike stand in silence, watching the heart of the world's learning vanish, helpless. In that moment, truth itself seems fragile, a collection of whispered secrets, always at risk of being lost, forgotten, or destroyed. Yet from the ashes, a question endures. What is truth? Is it something to be protected, cherished, perhaps even hidden away? Or is it resilient, an idea that can never truly be consumed by fire? From ancient empires to the digital age, humanity's bond with truth has been forged in struggle, against flames, against power, against doubt. This story begins not with one voice, but with the silence that follows catastrophe, a silence pregnant with questions. In that silence we must ask, when everything we know can disappear in an instant, what does it mean for something to be true? The ancient world, truth as unchanging reality. Before Socrates, the Greeks had gods, and gods were convenient. They explained everything: thunder, Zeus, love, Aphrodite. Why did your crops fail? You angered Demeter. But around the 6th century BCE, something shifted. A group of thinkers in Ionia started asking different questions. They wanted natural explanations, rational ones. Thales claimed everything came from water. Heraclitus said everything flows, nothing stands still. Parmenides argued the opposite. Change itself was an illusion. Only eternal, unchanging being was real. These weren't just abstract debates. They were asking, what can we trust? What is real versus what merely appears to be real? Then came Plato. And Plato had a problem with the physical world. Look around you. Everything changes. Everything decays. Your body ages. Mountains erode. Empires crumble. Nothing lasts. How can truth exist in a world of constant flux? Plato's answer was radical. Truth doesn't exist here. Not in this imperfect material realm. Truth exists in another dimension entirely, a realm of perfect, eternal forms. The physical world is just a shadow, a pale imitation. Think of a triangle. Any triangle you draw is imperfect. The lines are never perfectly straight. The angles are never exact. But you understand what a perfect triangle is. That perfect triangle exists in the realm of forms. It's eternal, unchanging, true. This idea would dominate Western thought for 2,000 years. Plato's student Aristotle disagreed. He grounded truth back in the physical world. Truth wasn't in some mystical realm. It was here, embedded in nature. You just had to observe carefully, classify properly, reason correctly. For Aristotle, truth was correspondence. A statement is true if it matches reality. The snow is white is true if and only if the snow is actually white. Simple, elegant, but not without problems. What about statements like murder is wrong? There's no objective fact in nature that corresponds to moral truth. So where does it come from? The ancient world never fully resolved this, but they established the battlefield. The questions that would echo through history. Is truth discovered or created? Is it objective or subjective? Eternal or contingent? The medieval synthesis, truth as divine. Rome fell. Europe plunged into darkness. Libraries burned. Knowledge scattered. But an idea survived. Actually, it thrived. Christianity. And Christianity brought a new conception of truth. Truth wasn't just philosophical, it was personal. Truth was God. God was truth. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. This created a problem. How do you reconcile Greek philosophy with Christian revelation? Athens with Jerusalem? Enter Augustine of Hippo, 4th century, North Africa. Augustine was a brilliant mind. He'd studied philosophy, lived a wild youth, converted dramatically, and he saw something the Greeks had missed. The Greeks thought reason alone could grasp truth, but Augustine knew better. Humans are fallen. Our minds are corrupted by sin. We can't trust pure reason. Truth requires grace, divine illumination. God must reveal himself. Philosophy needs theology. Augustine introduced another dimension, time. The Greeks saw truth as timeless, but Augustine asked, what about historical truth? What about the incarnation, the crucifixion? These were events, moments in time, yet they revealed eternal truth. Truth wasn't just abstract, it was concrete, embodied, historical. 7 centuries later, Thomas Aquinas went further. He had access to something Augustine didn't: Arabic translations of Aristotle's complete works. Aquinas performed a stunning synthesis. He merged Aristotelian logic with Christian doctrine. Reason and faith weren't enemies. They were partners, different paths to the same truth. Natural reason could prove God exists. The universe has a first cause. Design implies a designer, but reason has limits. It can't grasp the Trinity or the resurrection. For those, you need revelation. This medieval synthesis dominated universities. It gave the church intellectual credibility. It made Christianity philosophically respectable. But it was built on a foundation that was about to crack. The Modern Crisis, Truth Under Assault, 1543, a book appears. On the Revolutions of the Celestial Spheres. The author? Nicholas Copernicus. The claim? Earth isn't the center of the universe. The sun is. This wasn't just astronomy. It was an earthquake. If the church was wrong about this, what else might they be wrong about? Galileo pushed further. He built telescopes. He looked at Jupiter. He saw moons orbiting another planet, not Earth. The church ordered him to stop. He didn't. They tried him, convicted him, forced him to recant. But the damage was done. Authority couldn't dictate truth anymore. Not if evidence contradicted it. The medieval synthesis was collapsing, and philosophers knew it. René Descartes sat in a room in 1619, a stove-heated room, and he decided to doubt everything. Not because he was a skeptic, because he wanted certainty. How do you know anything is true? Your senses deceive you. Dreams feel real while you're in them. Maybe an evil demon is manipulating all your perceptions. Descartes found one thing he couldn't doubt. I think, therefore I am. Even if everything else is illusion, the fact that he's thinking proves he exists. From this foundation, he tried to rebuild knowledge. It was ambitious, brilliant, and ultimately it failed, because Descartes had created a prison. If you start from your own mind, how do you ever prove the external world exists? How do you escape solipsism? British empiricists tried another path. John Locke, George Berkeley, David Hume. Forget innate ideas, forget rationalism. All knowledge comes from experience, from sensation. Your mind at birth is a blank slate. Everything you know, you learned. But Hume took this to its logical conclusion, and the conclusion was devastating. Causation. You never actually observe it. You see one event follow another. You assume connection, but you never see the connection itself. It's just habit, custom, not knowledge. The self? An illusion, just a bundle of perceptions. No underlying unity. Even simple induction becomes questionable. The sun rose yesterday, and the day before, and 1,000 days before that. Will it rise tomorrow? You assume so, but you can't prove it. Hume had pushed empiricism to its limit, and at that limit, knowledge itself dissolved. Truth was in crisis. Rationalism led to solipsism. Empiricism led to skepticism. The Enlightenment promised reason would free us. Instead, it seemed to trap us. Then came Kant. The Kantian revolution, truth as construction. Immanuel Kant lived in Königsberg. He followed a routine so precise that neighbors set their clocks by his daily walk. But his mind was in turmoil. He'd read Hume. Hume's skepticism, he said, interrupted my dogmatic slumber. Kant proposed something radical. Both the rationalists and empiricists were half right and half wrong. Yes, all knowledge begins with experience. But no, not all knowledge comes from experience. The mind isn't passive. It doesn't just receive information. It actively structures it. It imposes categories, space, time, causation. These aren't features of reality itself. They're features of how we must experience reality. Think of it like wearing glasses. The glasses shape what you see. But you can't take them off. You can't see reality without the glasses. The glasses are built into human cognition. This solved Hume's problem. Causation is real, not because it's out there in nature, but because our minds necessarily impose causal structure on experience. But it created a new problem, a terrifying one. We can never know things as they are in themselves, only as they appear to us. There's a gap, an unbridgeable gap, between reality and what we can know about reality. The thing in itself remains forever hidden, unknowable, beyond experience. This was supposed to be liberating. Kant thought he'd save science from skepticism, and he had. But he'd also introduced a permanent uncertainty, a permanent humility. We're trapped in our own cognitive frameworks. Truth is always mediated, always filtered, never direct. The 19th century took this idea and ran with it in directions Kant never imagined. The death of truth, Nietzsche and beyond. Friedrich Nietzsche sat in his room in Turin, 1888. He was writing at a furious pace. He knew something was happening. His mind was either breaking through or breaking down. He'd just finished Twilight of the Idols. He was working on The Antichrist, and he was declaring something shocking. There are no facts, only interpretations. Truth, Nietzsche claimed, is a lie we've been telling ourselves for 2,000 years. It started with Plato, his perfect forms, his eternal realm. This was a rejection of life, a rejection of becoming, change, vitality. Then Christianity weaponized it. They created a true world beyond this one, heaven, eternity. And they made this world seem worthless by comparison. But what if there is no true world? What if there's only this world, this messy, chaotic, contradictory world? Then truth isn't about correspondence, it's about power, about perspective, about will. Every claim to truth is someone's interpretation, someone's perspective, usually someone trying to control you. Nietzsche wasn't promoting lies, he was promoting honesty, honest about what truth claims really are, exercises of power, nothing more. This was explosive, but most people didn't notice, not yet. Nietzsche collapsed in 1889. He saw a horse being whipped. He threw his arms around it, broke down, never recovered. He died in 1900, just as the 20th century began, a century that would vindicate his darkest predictions. The 20th century, truth in fragments, 2 world wars, 50 million dead, Auschwitz, Hiroshima, gulags. The 20th century shattered any remaining faith in inevitable progress, in reason as salvation, in truth as a stable foundation. Wittgenstein showed language itself was context-dependent. Meaning isn't fixed, it's use. Games we play with words, different contexts, different rules. Heidegger argued we're always already embedded in interpretation. There's no neutral standpoint, no view from nowhere. We're thrown into a world of meanings, pre-interpreted, pre-structured. Foucault went further. Truth is produced by power structures, by institutions, by disciplines. What counts as true depends on who has authority. Science, medicine, law, these create truth regimes. Derrida deconstructed binary oppositions, truth versus falsehood, reality versus appearance. These aren't natural, they're constructions. And they always privilege one term over the other. Postmodernism had arrived, and it brought a crisis. If truth is constructed, if it's relative, if it's always perspectival, then what's left? How do we distinguish truth from lies? Knowledge from propaganda? Science from pseudoscience? The critics had a point. If everything is interpretation, then what? Do we just give up? Embrace relativism? Accept that any view is as good as any other? This worried some postmodernists too. They'd meant to critique power, to expose hidden assumptions, to liberate, but they'd accidentally undermined the very possibility of critique. If there's no truth, then what are you critiquing? By what standard? Meanwhile, science kept working. Researchers kept discovering. Theories kept making predictions. Those predictions kept coming true. Maybe truth wasn't dead after all. Maybe it was just complicated. Truth in the Digital Age, Algorithms and Information Wars. January 20th, 2017. A crowd gathers. How big is it? 2 photographs. Same location. wildly different crowd sizes. Which is true? Both camps claim their photo is real. The other is manipulated. Fake news, alternative facts. Welcome to the 21st century. We have more information than ever, the entire sum of human knowledge in our pockets. But we've never been more confused about what's true. Social media algorithms create bubbles, echo chambers. You see what confirms what you already believe. Opposing views don't appear. Or if they do, they're caricatures, straw men. Deepfakes make video unreliable. AI generates text indistinguishable from human writing. Bots masquerade as people. People masquerade as bots. Truth becomes tribal. Not about evidence, about loyalty, about which side you're on. Scientists publish papers, but science itself becomes politicized. Climate change, vaccines, pandemics, public health. Facts become weapons, data becomes ammunition, and underneath it all, a question. The same question Pilate asked Jesus 2,000 years ago. What is truth? We've circled back. We have technology the ancients couldn't imagine. Computing power that would seem like magic. But we're asking the same questions. Is truth objective? Or is it constructed? Can we know reality directly? Or are we trapped in perspectives? Do facts matter? Or is everything interpretation? These aren't abstract philosophical puzzles anymore. They're urgent political questions, social questions, questions about survival. Because here's what history shows. Civilizations that lose shared truth tend not to last. They fragment, polarize, collapse. Rome fell partly because no one could agree on what was happening. Different provinces, different narratives. No shared reality. The scientific revolution succeeded because scientists agreed on method, on standards, on what counted as evidence. They had arguments, fierce ones, but they had a framework for resolving them. Democracy requires shared facts, at least some. You can disagree about what to do, but you need to agree on what is. When that breaks down, democracy breaks down. You get violence, authoritarianism. Someone imposes truth by force. We're not there yet, but we're closer than we've been in a long time. The path forward, toward a new understanding. So where does this leave us? After 25 centuries of searching, what have we learned? Truth is real, but it's not simple. There are objective facts. Water is H2O. The Earth orbits the Sun. DNA carries genetic information. These aren't matters of opinion. They're not constructed. They're discovered. But how we interpret facts, what they mean, what we should do about them, that involves values, perspectives, judgments. Science gives us facts. It doesn't give us purposes. Ethics isn't physics. Meaning isn't mathematics. We need both objective standards and human interpretation. Facts and values, discovery and construction. The mistake is thinking we have to choose. That truth is either purely objective or purely relative, either discovered or constructed. It's both. In different domains, in different ways. The challenge is knowing which is which. When to trust expertise. When to question authority. When to demand evidence. When to acknowledge limits. This requires wisdom, not just knowledge. Wisdom is knowing what you don't know, recognizing your blind spots, being willing to change your mind. It requires humility, the Socratic kind, knowing that you don't know. That certainty is rare, that doubt isn't weakness, but it also requires courage. The courage to say some things are true, some things are false, some views are better than others. Not all perspectives are equal. This is hard. Harder than fundamentalism, harder than relativism. Both of those are easy, comfortable. They give simple answers. Living with complexity is difficult, holding tensions, navigating paradoxes, accepting nuance, but it's necessary, because the alternative is chaos, or tyranny, or both. The eternal question. That old man in Athens, standing before his judges, he knew something we keep forgetting. Truth isn't comfortable. It's not safe. It won't necessarily make you happy, or popular, or rich, but it's worth pursuing anyway, because without truth, nothing else matters. Justice becomes power, knowledge becomes propaganda, progress becomes impossible. Socrates died for this idea. He wasn't the last. Throughout history, people have sacrificed everything for truth. Scientists, journalists, dissidents, whistleblowers. They knew something. Truth has value in itself, not just instrumental value, not just because it's useful, because it's right. We've spent 25 centuries trying to understand truth, defining it, defending it, doubting it, reconstructing it, and we're still working on it, still arguing, still searching. Maybe that's the point. Not to find a final answer, but to keep asking, keep questioning, keep looking. Because the moment we stop, the moment we think we have all the answers, we've lost something essential, something human. The unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates said that, and he meant it, literally. 25 centuries later, we're still trying to live up to that challenge, still trying to examine our lives, our beliefs, our assumptions, still trying to find truth, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The story isn't over. It never will be. Truth isn't a destination. It's a journey, one that every generation must make anew. The question now is, will we? In an age of algorithms and echo chambers, of tribal politics and polarized realities, will we commit to truth? Will we pursue it, defend it, live by it? Or will we let it slip away? Choose comfortable lies over uncomfortable truths? Trade knowledge for certainty? Wisdom for ideology? The answer will determine what kind of future we build, what kind of civilization we become, what kind of people we are. So here's the question, the same question philosophers have been asking since Athens. What is truth, and what are you willing to sacrifice to pursue it? The answer is yours to decide. What aspect of truth interests you most? Its philosophical foundations, its role in modern society, or perhaps how we might rebuild shared understanding in our fractured world?